with number 1 overall Jackson Cantwell. He's on his spring tour. He hit Miami. He's been to Michigan, Ohio State on the schedule. Steve, what's the latest with number 1 overall Jackson Cantwell?
The Knicks, a high 5-star, finished his spring swing on Sunday, wrapping up at Michigan. That came after trips to Miami first, then Ohio State. I still believe, Josh, that Georgia is the program setting the pace in this recruitment, but they have a lot of competition, as you can see. Michigan's a front runner. That still remains true. Oregon is a program that he did not visit this spring because he knew he was for sure taking that official visit to Oregon. Dan Lanning and the Ducks recruiting him as aggressively as anybody, and so is Miami. They're the program that stock is rising in this recruitment after taking this spring visit. He took a trip to Coral Gables in the fall to see Miami play, but this was a more in-depth look at the Hurricanes program where he got a chance to spend time with Mario Cristobal, offensive line coach, Coach Maribel, and the staff, and see why they've had so much success getting true freshman offensive linemen on the field and ready to play. Guys like Panay Sewell and most recently Francis Mauigoa. He loves the way that they install the offensive line play, the way they coach him on the field, the way Cristobal takes them one day, the way Mirabal takes the others another day, and just the importance of the offensive line position within the Miami program. NIL is not the major factor in Jackson Cantwell's decision, but when you're the number 1 player in the country, it's certainly relevant. And when it comes to the Hurricanes and Jackson Cantwell, that is not an area where they're going to lose. Again, I think Georgia's setting the pace for Cantwell. But you got Oregon and Michigan still right there, Miami trending up, Missouri still in the mix, Ohio State trying to get an official visit still. That's not set. He had a good visit to the Buckeyes campus this week. Ryan Day and company trying to get an official to stay alive in the recruitment for the number 1 player in the country.
How can you read this recruitment where everywhere Jackson Cantwell goes, we see the pictures. He's having a phenomenal time. We see the quotes. He loves every program he visits. So how do you get a read on this recruitment?
Well, I think Jackson Cantwell took these visits to try and eliminate programs, but he goes on these trips and sees more about why they're great programs and why he could really be successful. So these official visits are going to be crucial. If it was up to him and his family, I think he'd be committed right now if there was a big enough separation. Again, I like where Georgia stands, but he's seeing promising things at Oregon and Michigan and Miami now. And then you still have Missouri, Legacy School, still in the mix there. So as he continues to work through it, they have those NIL discussions. This is how it sets up going into the summer. I do not expect him to take another spring visit as he chases another national championship in shot put and discus this spring.
All right, so we're probably 3-4 months away from a Jackson Cantwell decision, but one top recruit, we are not that far away, is quarterback Jared Curtis, the number 1 quarterback in America, announced his decision date. It's going to be May 5th. Cinco de Mayo is when Jared Curtis is going to pick between Oregon and Georgia. Steve, what is the latest now that we have an announcement date set?
Well, Georgia and Oregon have been in a slobber knocker on the trail. Obviously, a one-time Georgia commit when he decommitted from the Bulldogs in the fall. We saw the Oregon Ducks surge. Oregon had a lot of momentum over the last month. Looked like they could have even been closing in on a commitment from Curtis, but Curtis takes visits to Oregon and Georgia one more time earlier this month. I think it's the Bulldogs that may have the inch right now, but he's continuing to work through his process. Dan Lanning, Will Stein and company, still very attractive option to him out west in Eugene, the way they've been prolific on offense with guys like Bo Nix and Dylan Gabriel lighting it up Saturday in, Saturday out, the success Bo Nix had in year 1 with the Denver Broncos. And then Georgia just getting back around the Bulldogs program, the proximity to home, seeing the caliber of players that they've recruited on the offensive line, brought into that wide receiver room, getting back around Kirby Smart, that coaching staff. I think that was a huge visit for Georgia. And he's expected back for G-Day, for Georgia's spring game later in the spring. Nothing on the calendar yet for Oregon. It wouldn't surprise me in what's fluid in recruiting these days if he made it back out to Eugene for what I think will be a 4th time. He saw them beat Maryland during the season. then returned earlier this month, and then went out one time before that. But Georgia, they got to get these recruitments to the finish line. Cantwell, Curtis, they're not going to be easy, but I like where the Bulldogs stand for both right now. There was a time where we liked where the Bulldogs stood for Justice Terry. He went to Texas at the last minute. We'll see what happens with Cantwell. We'll see if Oregon can get it done with Jared Curtis.
A monster recruitment going to come to an end very soon. We need you recruiting experts in the comments section below to tell us, where do you think Jared Curtis is going to end up? Will it be Eugene? Will it be Athens? Let us know. Comment section below.
Josh, you were just out with one of the top players in the country at Santa Ana Mater Dei, 5-star receiver, Ohio State commit, Chris Henry Jr. What's your pulse on that recruitment right now as Oregon, Miami, and USC continue to try and chip away at a Buckeyes verbal that goes back to 2023?
Yeah, it was great to be able to sit down and talk with Chris Henry Jr. just one-on-one. I learned a lot. I learned that his relationship with Ohio State is rock solid. I think that his relationship with Brian Hartline is the one that matters. That's kind of the pulse of this relationship, or of this recruitment. He knew Brian Hartline wasn't going anywhere. He told me, as a matter of fact. But I'll say this: Miami is way more of a player in this recruitment than I thought heading in. I mean, I thought Miami was a name that some people threw around, but Chris Henry Jr. has a really close relationship with that staff. He likes the weather. I mean, they got a lot of things going for them. I would maybe, obviously Oregon is probably the team. If Chris Henry were to flip today, that's where it would be too. But I think it's probably Ohio State in the 1 spot right now. I'd put I'd put Oregon in the 2 spot, Miami in the 3, USC in the 4. He's going to take official visits to all of them. And he pretty much told me, without saying he's going to make a final decision, he's going to make a final decision here at the end of the summer. He said he's going to take those officials, talk it over with the people that matter, his family, his friends, and then make sure that he's locked in to the right school. Now, will that be Ohio State? Will it be somebody else? I mean, I think these visits are really important coming up, Steve.
We've seen Ohio State hang on and win a battle like this with Jeremiah Smith. Can they do it again? He was just at Oregon, and he has those official visits in the summer. I wouldn't be surprised if he popped back up on the Ducks campus unofficially more times. On his last visit, he got a chance to meet new wide receivers coach Ross Douglas. Again, he's always been high on Oregon, but Ohio State, not only their track record of receivers being drafted in the first round, winning Biletnikoff awards, playing in a prolific offense in college, but the way that Brian Hartline has them ready to step into NFL franchises and be among the best receivers in the NFL. That's what you're recruiting against right now if you're the other 3. But Oregon, there seems to be growing confidence around Eugene with their position with Chris Henry Jr., Miami, Kevin Beard, Cristobal, that staff, they're going to be relentless with anybody that they covet. And USC, they got the number 2 recruiting class in the country right now. They're picking up steam with guys like Talanoa Illy, Mark Bowman, Deshaun Rideau. It just seems like they can get hot at any point, and they'll look to get hot with Chris Henry Jr. down the road.
Yeah, and, walking around Mater Dei High School, I'll say this. I saw a lot of USC jerseys, a lot of USC sweatshirts. I mean, also saw quite a bit of Oregon gear. I was surprised. We're right there in the backyard of the USC Trojans, but there's quite a bit of students and some football players walking around. I know Green is committed to Oregon, but there was some Duck gear walking around Mater Dei High School. I was a little surprised by that. But right now, Chris Henry Jr. saying all the right things, locked into that Ohio State. I'll say this, talking with you guys, you and Chad, talking with Hayes Fawcett after the Jeremiah Smith recruitment. I mean, there was a lot going on in the background of that Jeremiah Smith recruitment all the way up until signing day. And I think this Chris Henry one is going to be exactly like that.